Good evening, and welcome to the Lorain County Board of Commissioners. It's Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. It's 5 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Moore?
I am here.
Commissioner Riddell?
Here.
Commissioner Hung? Here. We have a quorum.
Yep. Okay, before we get going, today we're going to go, sometimes we're going to skip around a little bit. From EMA, our director here, Dave Freeman and Ms. Hope, would you guys like to allow them to speak in regards to some of the work they've done? I don't know if you want to come up there or not. Are you okay there?
I'm fine here, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. And some of the work that's been going on since the storm. So take it away,
right.
Dave.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, staff. The first thing I'd like to do, if I could, is I'd like to recognize our staff. So, could rise, please. We have Michelle Rowe, my administrative assistant, and Hope Bonos, my emergency operations manager. I want to recognize them for absolutely outstanding work over the last 2 weeks. They've really stepped up and been very helpful. And without them, I couldn't have done the things that we've done so far to help
Okay.
out the efforts. We also a debt of gratitude to 211, which is the phone number for United Way. They've collected a lot of data for us, and they've also directed people to additional resources. The American Red Cross has been very helpful. They did some damage assessments for us, and they've also provided residents with cleanup kits. And then the help that the commissioners provided to us with your staff, it was really appreciated, and they really helped with the phone calls and compilation of the emails. So thank you. So the first thing I wanted to do is go over the disaster declaration process and explain that a little bit, just so that everyone understands it. So it's got multiple steps. The first is the local damage assessments, which we've been in the process of doing. Both my staff going out and doing street level assessments, compiling the information from Red Cross, and then because we have so many reports, at this point over 1,500, those are going into a spreadsheet and being reported directly to the state EMA, and then they consider the data when it comes in. Then what happens from that point is the state reviews it, and they look at thresholds, and thresholds are major damage. That's about all they really look at. So there's two different levels they can look at. The first is a Small Business Administration Disaster Declaration. And for that, which is the lower level, we need 25 or more homes with major damage. Now, major damage is considered to be 18 inches of water in a primary living space with 40% home loss based on the home value. So it's a pretty high threshold to meet. I can tell you that I've been out, and our biggest hope for this was several very large apartment communities that we had that had ground level or below ground level living. So we went out and looked at those because we had multiple flooded units, somewhere around 90, just in our county alone. The highest water level I found so far was 9 inches, which is far short of the threshold they're looking at for the Small Business Administration piece of that. For a major disaster declaration, it has to overwhelm state and local resources, and there has to be major damage to multiple homes or properties. In the past 20 years, we've only had 2 declarations in Ohio. It's a very high threshold to meet. The first was the Northwest Ohio flood in 2007. It was considered to be a 1,000-year rain with 7 to 10 inches over 24 hours. There were 4-foot water lines, chest level, on multiple homes and properties. We flooded nearly every river in a 7-county area. There were $290 million in damage, and by comparison, our flooding was primarily basement level, although some were living areas, such as the below-grade apartments I talked about, but those unfortunately did not meet the 18-inch level. There was also the Miami Valley tornadoes in 2019. There were 11 tornadoes, EF0, multiple EF2s, multiple EF3s, and an EF4, with over $1 billion in damages. By comparison, in our area, we had 2 EF0 tornadoes, which is the lowest level, with no major damage reported. We had some roof shingle loss and some trees down. So this in no way and please don't anyone take it that way, downplays the damage we've had because it's been catastrophic for many of our residents. I'm just trying to provide you with some perspective on how the federal government looks at this when they evaluate for a major disaster. From that point, then the governor requests a presidential declaration, and the FEMA teams send primary damage assessment teams to the area to evaluate damage. If warranted, then FEMA will recommend a presidential declaration, and the final step is the president makes the final decision on whether or not he wants to make a declaration. So what has your team done since the storm? First step is we conducted damage assessments of flooding and tornado touchdowns across the county. We did street level assessments where we actually went out to the scene, looked at the homes, looked at the businesses, looked at the flooded areas, looked at the tornado touchdown areas. Then we coordinated damage reporting to our local agencies, city, towns, and villages. All of the agencies were sent a process for reporting the damage to us, and the ones that were unable to do it themselves, we set up a separate email site for them and reported that out to them so they could get that to the residents for reporting, as well as pushing it out through social media and the local newspaper as well. So, after that, we provided daily updates to the city, towns, and villages and to the Ohio Emergency Management Agency to let them know what our needs were and where we were at. We provided multiple documents detailing the process for declaring a disaster to county and elected officials to educate them on the process. Provided documents and forms for collecting both public and private damage reports. We coordinated response of several volunteer organizations, compiled list of damaged homes for consideration by the state EMA, set up an email specifically for damage reporting, answered with the help of 211 over 2,000 phone calls and hundreds of emails. With the assistance of 211, as I said, the American Red Cross and county staff loaned to us by the commissioners. We worked with local agencies to provide food resources and the American Red Cross to provide cleanup kits. At this point, we're still working with the state EMA to attempt to secure a declaration. It's ongoing, but I have to say that at this point it seems very unlikely based on the previous factors that I educated you on. We have an organization coming into town starting on September 10th, so they'll be in here next Sunday. It's the Southern Baptist Relief Organization. They are providing multiple teams from a multi-state area. I believe they're collecting teams from 5 states at this point. They're completely self-efficient. They provide their own shelter. They have food trucks that come in that specifically serve them and shower trucks for the use of their staff and volunteers. And what they're going to be able to do is provide assistance with people who are unable to clean out the flood damage from their basements or their homes. They can also do mold and mildew removal to make sure that it doesn't proliferate or come back. And then they can also do some tree cutting, but they primarily do that to clear access to your homes, garages, sheds, etc. So I'm asking that anyone listening to the meeting and our elected officials, if you know of any residents that have special needs specifically, elderly or handicapped, that you report them to our EMA at loraincounty.us email, and that's spelled out. The Southern Baptist and the EMA staff will be calling all parties on our current list over the next few days to get an idea of the damage, and they have their own assessors that then categorize them by importance and who needs help. And then finally, just a little personal aside for me. This has been one of the roughest things I've ever done in my life. I've been doing this for a very long time as a fire chief for 30 years. I'm not used to being able or not being able to provide immediate assistance, and it's killing me. I have to tell you. This has affected me very personally. What I want to do is jump in the car, go to your house, and clean your basement out. That's what I want to do. I want to write you a check. I want to help you out with whatever your needs are. Unfortunately, there's a process, and I'm tied to that process. So I want to tell you that me and my staff, we're doing the absolute best we can for you, and we're trying to get this to come to the best possible resolution. So thank you for the time.
No,
Yeah, could you put that up for me, Teresa?
Okay, that was my question on whether or not we're going to be following up the 1,500 names that you already have. So,
Yes, we are, sir.
Okay.
So I'm going to stand up because I actually can't read that from over there.
I don't think anybody else in the room can either.
Exactly. So These are how FEMA looks at damage estimates. So if you look at destroyed, it's a complete failure of two or more structural components, collapse of a basement wall, collapse of a roof, and then water line up to the roof or higher. For major damage, you're looking at water line, the basement's completely full, the water line is 18 inches or above the electrical outlets in an essential living space. And they do not consider a basement essential living space unless it's like an official living space, like a basement apartment. And any water line on the first floor when the basement is full. So you've got those things. For minor damage, it's a water line in a finished basement, damage to mechanical components. So if your furnace, your water heater, your HVAC system is completely destroyed, they consider that minor damage. And also water line up to 18 inches, as I talked about. So all those apartments with 9 inches of water, FEMA considers that minor damage, even though it might have destroyed a lot of their belongings. And then finally, affected, if you've got a water line in a crawl space or an unfinished basement where essential living spaces or mechanical components are not damaged or submerged, or damaged to a garage, carport, or an outbuilding, they just consider that affected. So the majority of the calls we have, the majority of the reports we have are 3, 4 inches, 5 inches of water in a basement. We do have some that are 3 to 4 feet and they did damage components. But unfortunately, they look at this as a whole. So it's not looking at, we had 1 or 2 residences with affected mechanical systems. It has to be multiple residents that meet a pretty major threshold, as you saw from the other disaster declarations. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. This is the email that we set up specifically for this. It's ema@loraincounty.us, as I said previously. And what we'd like you to do, if you have damage, you know anyone that has damage, please have them email us with their name, address, a list of the damages that they have, and then whether or not they're insured. Now, we don't care whether they're insured, but FEMA does look at that. And they look at it 2 different ways. They cover only uninsured losses, and that includes whether or not they consider you should have had insurance. So it's very, very specific. So if you live in a floodplain area where you should have expected flooding and you don't have insurance for floods, they consider that as an insured loss because you should have had insurance. Now, it can be different if you live in an area that typically is never flooded. Floodplain insurance is not supplied or not required for your area, and you happen to flood, which many people did. We had a 200 to 500 year event here ourselves with 3 to 7 inches of rain. Then they would consider that possibly an uninsured loss. So, thank you.
Thank you and your staff. Does any commissioners have any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank
you.
you for what you did. Okay. We have next on the agenda is a discussion, the potential benefits and or detriment of developing a plan to designate all or part of the unincorporated area of the county as a restricted area within the meaning of the ORC 303.58. Based on the attendance today, I think that's the majority of why everyone's here, which is nice. Because the purpose of this step is to get public participation, which is what we want. We want to hear from you. And also, we want to give the unincorporated areas the chance to have the ability to control their own backyard. And it's based on Senate Bill 52. And so what today's meeting is about is really public input. And I've talked to the county prosecutor, assistant county prosecutor, in regards of how we're going to be moving forward. This is nothing that we're going to do today where we're making a decision. We will not be making decisions today. What we're going to be doing is gathering information. And how this got started was we're looking at a lot of communities in Michigan where there's nothing but windmills. Believe it or not, the letters that I received, that stack of letters was all about solar panels, and people upset thinking we're talking about your homes. We are not. What the true purpose of the beginning of this discussion is whether or not you want to deal with the public sitting board. I think it's called the public sitting, the siting, the public siting board, or the Ohio siting. It's Ohio siting
Ohio Public
Place
Safety.
public, yeah, they got initials all over this thing, okay? And so then you gotta go back and see what it's Ohio Power Sitting Board. Do you want them to make those decisions, or do you want local control? I believe that each and every unincorporated area should go and have public meetings in their own areas. This is just my opinion. And I believe that they should recommend to this board on whether or not they want to participate in mapping out our county, allowing alternative forms of energy or not allowing certain types of alternative forms of energy. And that's kind of the beginning of this process today, which is what we're trying to do. I don't know if you'd like to add a little bit more to the process and how long this could take.
I think, thank you, Commissioner. The statutory scheme that allows the board to take these steps, which has been used by a number of counties in the state, we've seen happen so far. I think there's 10, 11
There's
counties.
about 10 so far.
Where this has happened, presupposes that a plan exists, and then there's a public hearing, and you talk about the plan that's been developed. We're not there yet. This board decided that rather than kind of putting a plan together by themselves or with a couple of choice stakeholders, they would throw it open to the public and get some ideas and try and get the discussion going at this stage. Ideally, from this meeting and maybe others like it, we'll develop a group that can put together a plan that will let us know what's the right answer for the unincorporated areas of Lorain County. At which point, you see a man busily writing in the back over there in a suit. That's Jacob Puller from my office. He's going to be intimately involved in this as we're going forward. But at that point, we will have some more meat on the bone, and we'll be able to talk specifically about the plan itself. This is the first step of what I assume will be 2 to 3 steps over a period of months, would be my guess. Before we're ready to go, we're going to talk to the townships and see where the townships and the boards of trustees and the townships are, to see how we can get them involved as well. Is that a fair summary where we're at?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And the main thing is, we don't really need to do this process, but I feel like we did with the 7 districts. We didn't need to have 3 public meetings, but we did. We wanted to hear from the public and have their input, and that's what we're doing here today, which is we're looking to get input. We're looking to have you participate and help us and make sure that you don't think the government's coming up with a plan and saying, here you go, this is what you gotta live by. That's not what we're doing today. What we're doing today is asking for you to be, to help us out with the pros and cons. And in the meantime, the main goal for me is that either we can continue without any restrictions and let Columbus make those decisions for us, or each and every unincorporated area could actually make those decisions themselves. For example, I was talking to the mayor of one community, and they already have restrictions in regards to windmills. It's not really windmills, they're just not allowing any towers over 30 feet. And that's somehow, unfortunately, the unincorporated areas, they don't have that type of regulations. And so when this Senate bill was passed and in the end of 21, so far 10 counties have already basically restricted any and all renewable energy. That's not what this is about. This is about going to the townships, letting them debate, each and every township trustees, and let them come back to us and say yes or no. And then we can start developing that map that we have to submit to Columbus.
And just real quick, Commissioner, then I'll stop, I promise.
No, that's fine.
I think you're right. This is about putting a tool in the toolkit, right? The incorporated areas, the cities, the towns, and the villages have
They
more
already
tools
have,
in the toolkit
yeah.
to be able to restrict some of these things or to manage growth and how things are built. The townships really don't have that. We've seen this happen, and from my office, certainly we've seen this happen a number of times on a number of areas. This is really just to provide the unincorporated areas with some of the same tools that the cities already have, in my opinion.
Right. Yep.
Yes, for many folks that live in cities, you know about the process that you go through if you want to move your garage, and you've got to stay so many feet away from your neighbor. It can only be so big, so many square feet, it can only be so high, and that is to protect the values of your neighbors. And so that you can utilize your property as you see fit, as long as it doesn't harm those around you. And in the unincorporated areas, those are the same type of issues that the townships will be asking to do. If somebody, we all know about what's gone on in the past with cell towers, until we finally realized that the cell towers, were necessary and we should accept a certain amount of inconvenience. But if one property owner out in the townships wants to sell his property or lease his property for a windmill farm, I don't think there's a whole lot of dispute over solar farms. They're pretty passive. But the windmill farms can be an issue and can affect neighboring properties. So neighbors need to get together and come up with a set of rules that's going to allow them to say, how high can we be? How far do we need to be away from our neighbors' buildings and barns and so forth? And what's the impact to the neighborhood going to be? That's the conversation that we start tonight. This is not an endorsement or an opposition to solar or wind power. This is merely how do we provide the zoning to allow it to occur logically and in fairness to everybody.
Good. I think.
Jacob just texted me and told me that you were wrong. It's actually 14 counties who have done this.
Oh, wow. Who,
Right? See, no, watch him blush. See, look at him over there, he's blushing.
he likes to say that I'm wrong. Okay. So that just to let you guys, the people know. Now, you filled out a opportunity to speak before this issue. So what I can do is call you up and we can have that discussion. Usually we hold for 2 minutes is kind of how we try to do it. So we'll see. I've had people actually once, hopefully if you heard hopefully you liked what you hear. Maybe you didn't like what you just heard. I don't know. That's going to be up to you to come on up. I would also recommend if you could, if you want to write down your email address, Teresa will send out our agenda. She does it the day before. And that way you don't get blindsided and read about this in the paper that we try to slide something through or something like that. So that way you don't have to wait for to read it in the newspaper. You'll actually have access in the future for when we have meetings, and we're going to have several more meetings. Hopefully this can be resolved by the end of this year. We're hoping sometime maybe in December that we can get this resolved. And hopefully in the next 90 days or so, we can all agree on what's best for Lorain County. So Teresa here, if you want to get on the list for our agenda, that way you'll know when we're going to have a discussion in regards to this in the future. Maybe we bring in some experts, maybe we don't, okay? But that's what the future is going to look like in the next hopefully 90 to 120 days. So just to let you know, if you want to have that access or anyone can do that, then that's allowable today, just to get it to Teresa. Is it, I have, and if I hack your name up, I apologize. Maya Hoyle? Do you want to come on up? Is it M-A-I-A?
She passes.
Oh, pass? Oh, okay. Okay. We did get a lot of emails, so I'll be responding, and we all will be responding. Elena Statue? Did I say that right? Elena? Yeah, did you want to speak? Sure. Yeah, come on up. Yeah, come on up. Good evening, and thank you for coming up tonight.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds good. All right. Okay. Yeah. So, hi, my name's Elena Statue, and I'm just here to offer support to Lorain County and the unincorporated territory. I'm one of the Northeast Ohio strategy consultants for Power Clean Future Ohio. And just to let you know what Power Clean Future Ohio is, and for everyone in this room, we are a nonpartisan statewide nonprofit, and we work with 45 communities across the state of Ohio. So that's more than a third of all of Ohio's residents on clean renewable energy, transportation electrification, energy efficiency, and land use strategies, policies, and initiatives that benefit every Ohioan. So we work with the state's largest cities, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, etc., to mid-sized cities, Lorain, Euclid, Canton, Sandusky, to smaller towns, villages, and townships like Monroe Falls, Moreland Hills, Oakwood Village. Counties can also become member communities. So Cuyahoga, Montgomery, Lucas, Athens, and Hamilton counties are all members of our organization. So we help communities across Ohio discuss economically sound, community-supported, clean energy development ideas, projects, and initiatives. Our services are completely free to municipalities and counties, as we are fully funded by philanthropy at the local, regional, state, and national levels. So we offer tangible hands-on technical support to local government staff. So we'll do research, federal grant scoping assistance, solar market development assessments, community partner scoping and recruitment, and a lot more. Because we understand that government staff have many competing priorities on a daily basis, and you must tend to the daily functioning of your communities. And so that's why our organization was created. We were launched in 2020 to give communities the tools, resources, expertise, and on-call support that you need to be able to develop and execute development projects that benefit both people and the environment, access federal dollars from IIJA and the IRA, and create economic opportunities for your community and residents. So while you're going through this process, I just encourage you to meet with us. I'm the Northeast Ohio rep, so I'm your go-to person for Lorain County. If you want to talk with us to explore more about this idea you're all discussing. So thank you.
No, I appreciate you coming in. I like that word, free.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I'm going to give your phone number this is Jeff Armbruster. He's our county administrator. Sure. And so I'd like to have you guys connect and hopefully help us through this process.
Yeah, and I have materials as well, so I can hand some out to folks.
Oh, fantastic.
interested. Yeah.
I do appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Power a Clean Future Ohio. Power a Clean Future Ohio, or PCFO.
I can't hear. So I'm like,
She's talking to somebody.
I know. I was hoping to repeat it. David Hill?
Power a clean.
Power a Clean?
Yes.
Okay. David Hill?
Good evening, David Hill. I'm pastor at the First Church in Oberlin, United Church of Christ, and thank you for your explanation this evening to sort of frame what this is all about, so I'll try and aim my remarks at that.
Okay.
You know, I think as much as you're discussing how do we deal with unincorporated areas and giving people options, the truth is our country is dealing with some really serious effects of human-created climate change, as we've heard from various disaster reports just this evening. And it's going to take us all working together, and carving out a patchwork, however well-intended that is, will undermine that. Right now we're in a country that's deeply divided about a number of issues, which is really limiting our ability to work together to make positive changes that are needed in all sorts of areas. So I think it's really important that there be a way that we all can hang together on this. I'm conscious of the fact that we said a pledge tonight that referred to God, and that the state of Ohio's motto is, with God all things are possible. So whether you believe the world came through God or creative intelligent design or with some sort of cosmic coincidence, it is something that we all have to work together on. So I would urge you to really think about having an overall plan rather than allowing folks to carve up a patchwork in the county that will really undermine all of us working together on this very serious issue. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming in tonight. John Peterson?
Can you actually put overheads up there? Is that possible on the screen?
Is
I'll
it-
hold them up, but if you can, I saw you put someone's stuff up there. It's just, I just have a few.
It's up
Just-
to
Yeah,
the
go
county
ahead.
commissioners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No, as long as it's appropriate. As long as it's appropriate.
What's that?
As long as it's appropriate. I
What's that?
just want to make sure it's appropriate.
I promise you, it's 100% appropriate. It's just some statistics, and then it's several photographs.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Photographs.
I'm just looking. Okay, we're
Yeah.
yeah. No, we're fine. Okay.
All right, thank you so much. And I again, like David, I really appreciate your having this open discussion with the community members. I'd like to talk about three things very briefly. One is economic development opportunities in our region of Northeast Ohio. The second is the rural character of Northeast Ohio. And the third is the future generation. And I want to start with economic development and say that I think we have some substantial opportunities here in our region to take advantage of recent legislation to build up renewable energy as a significant part of our economy. Obviously, in Lorain County, farming is a significant part of our economy right now. Can we do the overheads? Is that okay? Oh,
You're up.
thank you. Okay. I just want to point out there are $370 billion in the recent Inflation Reduction Act that are targeted towards clean energy. $970 million are targeted to USDA's program Empower Rural America, specifically to support solar and wind. If we were to constrain those opportunities, we could effectively end up with zero of those dollars coming to our region. So I just think it's very important that we consider the opportunities that we might close out should we close certain things. If I could have the next slide here. Some people are concerned about the effect of solar on the rural character of communities, or wind for that matter. This is a 10-acre solar array in Oberlin, Ohio that provides 12% of the power for Oberlin College right now. And as you can see from that photo, it coexists very nicely with the sheep that graze to maintain the grass in the area. Next one, please. Oberlin was one of the first communities to rely on nearly 100% green energy. This is a wind turbine. You'll notice it's embedded in a cornfield. It coexists very nicely with that cornfield. There's sort of an embedded photo in there of a class of my students. I teach at Oberlin College in the Environmental Studies Department. Class of my students visiting that wind turbine that provides part of the mix for our electric utility in Oberlin through AMP Ohio, which we purchased through. Next, please. To get a little bit more personal here, this is a solar array in Oberlin, Ohio above my electric vehicle, which I drove here in. The future of our economy, the future of our transportation is going to be electric. We need to power that. We need to power that with clean energy. Next, please. So here's where I get particularly personal. That's my son in front of our 1880 farmhouse. I live on 5 acres in New Russia Township. My son is on the varsity soccer team at Oberlin High School. If you look very closely at that 1880 farmhouse, it's got solar panels on the roof that provided the electricity to get the folks who traveled here with me here today. My son suffers from asthma, like many people in his generation. Clean air, clean water is important to this next generation. It's critical to this next generation. Removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere so that they have a chance of living a decent life like we have is critical to their future. I urge us to think about ways that we as a community can act so that we support renewable, clean energy that produces no dirty air, no dirty water for our next generation. And I thank you for listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Barbara Pryor? Barbara, did you want to speak? Did you want to speak?
Well, after that, I feel like I should.
I wouldn't want to follow him, but
Great, what an excellent presentation. I just wanted to share one thing,
Yeah.
because the proposal, the proposal that I saw was to.
I need your name, please.
we got Barbara
Again,
Price.
okay.
Barbara Pryor.
Barbara Pryor, I live in
Okay.
Amherst. So the proposal that I saw advertised was to block solar energy specifically in Lorain County. I didn't have access to the full report. I didn't realize that you're focusing more on unincorporated areas as opposed to cities and townships. So I'm prepared to speak about a blanket ban, which perhaps is still being considered. I don't know if that's true or not. But I just wanted to point out that Ohio is known for its innovation in many, many fields, technological innovation, biomedical innovation, and we also were we were the growing, and still are, the state that gave rise to the largest solar company in the world. It came out of Toledo, Ohio, First Solar. They now they have 3 plants in Ohio, and they will be generating 10 gigawatts of power in 2025 if their improvements to those plants continue, as they anticipate they will. So my point was, why would Lorain County want to shut itself off, or any city or municipality, from what's clearly going to bring jobs, benefit the economy, benefit the environment, and also it's part of the future. We don't want to say that we are against development if it's part of the future. That's all I have to say.
No, thanks. Thank you for coming in. Based on the letters that I received, I think that was somehow that did get out like that, so you're not wrong somehow. Based on the letters, it was all based on solar, so. Gerald, is it Barna? Good evening.
Thank you for sitting in the front row.
Yeah, not too many people are brave to do that,
It's
so.
easier to walk to the microphone.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's Gerald Barna. I currently live in Avon, Ohio, and I've been a Lorain County resident for over 54 years. I urge the commissioners to develop a plan which permits large-scale solar facilities and wind farms. Any regulations which are prohibitive or restrictive would wipe out opportunities for major economic benefits, new business attraction, and new good-paying jobs. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, jobs for installation, maintenance, and repair of these facilities have jobs of in the $40,000 to $70,000 a year range. Large solar and wind power installations now provide cost of electricity which is highly competitive with fossil fuels. I believe that each proposed large solar or wind project should be evaluated on its own merit and meet reasonable siting requirements which are developed relying on best practices. I strongly believe that providing the opportunities for large-scale solar and large-scale wind are critical to the future growth of Lorain County and all of the unincorporated communities just as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in tonight. Linda Arbogast? Did I say it right? Yeah. Oh.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good
evening.
Thank you so much for having this public discussion tonight. So my name is Linda Arbogast, and I live at 9173 Peasley Road in Brownhelm Township. And I am a farmer there, and I am also the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Oberlin. So kind of wearing two hats. But I would like to echo some of the job concerns. Right now, Ohio ranks 9th for solar jobs in the United States. That's 7,500 jobs that have been brought in recently for the solar industry, and that is really, growing. So I think that it is critical that we consider that when we're talking about, putting on any restrictions. In my job with Oberlin, I have been fortunate to participate in the NOACA 5-county regional climate action planning process, and I know you two are on the board, and thank you for your service. That process has been really exciting to me because, Oberlin has been working for about 20 years on our climate action plan with a real hope that we would bring others along, including our neighboring communities. So you're welcoming us to all participate together. I really appreciate that. I would love to work with you as much as possible. And I think that we should also consider this 5-county regional plan as we think about this, because obviously Lorain County is just part of a bigger region, and it's super important that we all think about the future, our future generations, as Dr. Peterson talked about, as we start this planning process. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Is it Dorothy Luciano? You want to speak? She's a woman after my own heart. We'll see if anybody knows why. I'm a Michigan graduate. And it's a brave woman to wear a Michigan shirt in Ohio.
Dorothy Luciano from 6 Kendall Drive in Oberlin. Unlike your other speakers, I would like to speak about choice because it's important to all of us, and it affects every single thing we do in our lives, including where we choose to live. And as we all know, every single choice we make involves pros and cons. And whether we choose to live rural or whether we choose to live in a city, we affect those pros and cons. And I think that rural people accept that it's going to take longer for fire engines and EMTs and school buses and whatnot to get to their community. And they put up with this because that's their choice, to live rural. And I'm a little concerned that they're asking for the protections that a city might give with all their onerous codes and regulations that do protect property values, but they're expecting these same protections, although they've chosen not to live in a city. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Dan Reiber?
Not knowing what, my name is Dan Ryder, I live in Kendall at Overland. I'd like to yield my time to other people that are more knowledgeable, so I will not
Okay.
retract my request.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you for coming in tonight. Elaine Orr?
Clean energy.
Yeah, okay. Is Elaine Orr? Elaine, is she here? Okay, there she is.
Hi, thank you for having this hearing. I think it's important to hear what people are thinking. I'm a retired public school teacher, and I have been around solar energy communities since the 1980s. So I've had a lot of experience of the effects of solar and wind energy. And I want to put a plug in for our children because in elementary school, we teach them about the web of life. The web of life needs clean air and good soils to support it. And the best way we can have clean air is to develop non-fossil fuel energy. I think it is extremely important. I've seen it work everywhere I've been. I've been to many college campuses, and the ones that are switching to solar, and they have oodles of chargers for electric cars, and they put their solar collectors over top of all the parking lots in their school, in their university. And it produces so much energy, and that takes, by doing it with solar, you take the CO2 out of the air, and that's what's hurting us. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming in, Lane. Nick Bundrell? Nick? Did you want to speak? Oh, there he is. Okay. And good evening, and thanks for coming out tonight.
I know, it's a long walk.
I know. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. My name is Nick Bundren, and I represent the Ohio Land and Liberty Coalition. We're a group of conservatives who support utility-scale renewable development. Our coalition consists of farmers, landowners, and key stakeholders who are concerned about protecting their property rights, developing their communities, and being good stewards of the land. I'm going to be talking to you guys about more the property rights angle of this debate, as well as some of the economic benefits of utility-scale solar in our communities. So our property rights are guaranteed to us as citizens of the United States of America. America's founders understood clearly that private property is the foundation not only of prosperity, but of freedom itself. Thus, through the common law, the state law, and our Constitution, they protected property rights, those rights of people to acquire, use, and dispose of property freely. Even if a governing body does not like the way something looks, or a group of neighbors do not agree with the development of a property, they cannot take away that inalienable right for a landowner to do so. Furthermore, I'm going to go into the economic benefits now. The economic benefits from utility-scale solar far outweigh the downsides. While sure, you may have to hear construction for a couple of months, and nobody really likes that, especially early in the mornings, your children are going to receive extra funding for their schools. Roads are going to have funding for improvements, and this will last for decades. that means that even long after we are all gone, the children's children are going to be seeing the benefits of that solar development. Is it really worth foregoing all of these benefits just because a person or a group doesn't agree with them? And more times than not, I've been all over Ohio recently doing this exact same thing. More times than not, it's a very small but vocal minority of the community that opposes these types of projects. In order to maintain our property rights while furthering the development of our communities, we need to embrace solar and creative solutions to a lot of our community's problems. And kids are always going to need textbooks. Roads are always going to need to be improved. And this is just a smart and sensible way to get those things done. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for coming in. And Nick, I'm going to give our county administrator your number so that you guys can communicate. Yep. Ted Woolner? Did I say that right, Ted? Do you want to speak? Or you?
I yield. Also, as all of the previous speakers have been, very much in favor of wind and solar energy.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Is it Gene McKibben? Gene?
Thank you very much. I'm Jean McKibben from Oberlin. I'm a retired physician, and I'm very thankful that you have decided to have this hearing today. I must say I agree with all of the people that have spoken so far. I feel that the freedom to have businesses develop in our county is extremely important. To put restrictions on those when this is something that is being evaluated, not just here, but all over our country and has found a lot of positive benefits, I think is extremely important for us to listen to. The other thing, as a physician, I've always been concerned about a retired physician, about the health of people, and I'm intensely interested in not only the health of people these days, because we need to consider the health of our surroundings, our environment. And just like medicine is developing new technologies and new medicines to help people get better, we need to encourage all sorts of development that helps our world get better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Okay. I saved a couple there. I think, let me see if there's anyone else. Brian, did you want to speak to this? Oh, yeah. Okay. You're on here like 3 times you want to speak tonight, so I didn't know. If you're gonna. There's 2 other, during the process of our meeting, we have public comment regarding the agenda, and we have public comment at the end. And just that's why I was asking Brian.
Brian Baker, 49822 Greystone Drive. I've been following this since the beginning, coming here. I've done a little research over the last month. I've worked with ACT Ohio. ACT Ohio tells us that if there's a 200 megawatt plant, is about 750,000 to 1 million man hours in construction man hours. So you start to think about the revenue that it provides. Also, I think you need to really look into the siting board. You talk about windmills not coming to this area. The siting board, whether anybody thinks so or not, have kept them off of Lake Erie. I don't care what anybody says. There's been projects for 25 years tried to put windmills on Lake Erie, and the siting board stops them all. So that leads me to my last point here, kinda. There's a good article in the Sandusky Register. I think it was about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I think I told Mr. Petticourt about it. I think, Dave, I talked to you. Mm-hmm. They worked with a siting board in Erie County, and they were able to negotiate a deal for about 125 megawatt solar plant up there that'll pay Erie County $1.1 million each year for the next 30 years. They also were able to put, I think there's like, Ehovy gets like $150,000 each year, and also they have to go to nonprofits and they have to put money there. So I would ask you, if you know the commissioners in Erie County, or Mr. Armbruch, or somebody could reach out to their county executive. I made a copy of these. I'll give them to the clerk. But I really think that we need to be really careful on home rule. And home rule is what we're asking for. If we want home rule, we should ask for home rule back for everything. We should ask for it for siting of power towers. Everybody has to realize, at one time, Lorain County had 2 power plants and a peaking plant. To this day, currently, we have 1 peaking plant that runs constant. We have to rely on other counties to provide our electricity to this county. And if we don't do something to make sure that we make ourselves self-sufficient, we're going to be in a world, we're not going to attract no businesses, we're not going to attract anything to this county because you need electricity. I hear people talk about chip factories. Chip factories go where they can provide them electricity, cheap, and they have a water source. We could do that if we're smart about how we do it. So with that, I'll provide these to the clerk after the meeting, this article in the Register. Very good article. The gentleman that negotiated did a very good job. You think about that. Over 30 years, we're going to get $33, $34 million. I think that's what we should be looking at doing. So with
What
that,
type of plant was that?
it's a solar plant. It's going to be over about 635 acres. I don't know. It's out in Groton Township, I think is where it's at. It's out by Margaretta. I mean, I do know where it is, and I'm going to say for my local, out of the IBW electricians, we will have at least 100 electricians there that'll probably be there for 10 or 11 months of employment, making good wages and benefits. So with that, I'll give you a copy of this, though, but I think somebody should really talk to them because they worked through the siting board to get what they needed for the betterment of their community, and if they didn't, the siting board wouldn't have approved it. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming out again, Brian. Okay, well, that's all I have for public comment in regards to our discussion today. You heard what we said beforehand. Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe I signed up on the wrong list.
Wait, what's your name?
My name's Carol Baylor.
Come on up, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, okay.
When
Yep.
you said there was 3 lists, I was like, oh.
I don't have
No,
her on-
no, no,
I
no.
don't
What,
have her on this
well, no, what he just had one document, and instead of doing 3 documents, he just did one. And
All
you,
right.
you had under public, we're good. So.
Oh, thank you. Hi,
Here.
Carol Thaler of
Yeah.
Avon Lake. And I am pleased to see that soon on your agenda, you're going to declare September Emergency Preparedness Month, which raises awareness for us all that we need to be personally prepared. And having lost power for 5 days after the storm that blew through, it makes me realize how important that is. And I'm reminded of, I think it was 2003, when we had that a blackout that started with a tree in Walton Hills and went all the way to New York City. And I see utility scale solar as being a way of being very self-sufficient. Our grid is tenuous. Its health is not great. And I hope the commissioners will lean into the conversations between the state and the township, I think you are, to get the best kind of self-reliant solar power for the region or for the county. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you for coming up. Okay. We have a choice here. Would you guys like to take a 5-minute break, or do you think the crowd would like to listen to the excitement of our meeting? Oh, I'm seeing 5-minute break. Let's take a 5-minute break right now. Is that okay? Can you turn off the cameras? Oh. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll talk.
We gotta decide if this whole thing is gonna be a Park Roosters permit.
Or Greenspans?
Ugh.
Gotta figure out who's more or less the operations guy. This is community support.
Okay, we're back. Madam Clerk, I'll wait till you turn on your
I'm ready.
trusty
Where you
8-track
at?
cassette. We're in resolutions.
Okay, you want resolutions. Number 1, investments.
We only have one page. These are investments. I move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
Number 2, appropriations.
Page 1 of our appropriations. Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
3, transfers.
These are today's transfers. I move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
Number 4, advances, repayments. There were none. Number 5, requisitions.
This is page 1 of 3. Go to page 2, please. Page 2 of 3, page 3 of 3. Move to approve pages 1, 2, and 3 of the requisitions.
So moved.
Discussion.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
Number 6, travel.
Just one page for travel. Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
Number 7, bills.
You have 2 pages for bills. It's page 1 of 2. Page 2, please. Page 2 of 2. Any questions? If not, move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
Number 8, commissioners may recess an executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Move to approve the personnel summary sheet.
Second?
Put it out there, Teresa.
Do you want to put it up there? No? Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes.
C, public comment on agenda items.
Yeah, Brian, you want to talk on item number 10, I believe? And public comments.
You're gonna have to start sitting in the front row.
No, you don't like it.
Been there forever, longer than you've been as commissioner. Brian Baker, 49822 Greystone Drive. I just have a question, and I think I know the answer. Number 10 is Community Development Award. Does fall under Davis-Bacon or prevailing wage, is that correct? And I would ask who the prevailing wage coordinator will be for that project. Okay. So if we have any issues.
No, I got Drake back. Drake is involved, Karen's involved, so which one do you guys want to talk about it? Or do you want to wait till we come up to it, or do you want?
I mean, that's fine, just as long as I can find out by the end of the meeting who the prevailing wage coordinator that we can follow up with.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay.
We'll discuss that when we get to item 10, and then maybe we'll have Brian come back up. How's that,
All right.
Drake? Okay.
Thank you.
I think that was it, I believe. Nope, Mike, you had DeCarlo, you had item number 14, which is, okay.
Michael DeCarlo, 320 Vermillion. Good morning, or good evening, commissioners. Only thing I'm not concerned about that we're getting a grant here, whatever. I'm looking more at how we're administrating it. Are we covering, and it's more from what I learned living out west in the town that I lived in out there, is when we would get these grants, a lot of these guys would work overtime, but the overtime would go toward their pension. They're covering everything but the pension. So that we're not really, all we're doing was you're looking at just a salary. If you look at like every dollar is apportioned say 40% to their paycheck, 30% to the taxes, right? Another 20% to their benefit package, whatever, to the uniform package. Is there a portion there toward their retirement? And if we can look at that in a way so that we can make sure that we're fully funding our folks instead of just throwing money at somebody to stay there for a while. So we're looking at the whole person or the whole officer concept. Does that make sense, Mr. President?
Unfortunately, our budget director's not here to answer that for
That's
you.
okay.
so.
No, it's just an idea.
Okay.
Really, it's just an idea. If we don't do it this time, so what? If we do it next time, more better.
We'll check it out.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Okay. Any old business?
Is there any old business?
No.
Board business. Number 9, approve and waive the reading of the county commissioners meetings of August 22nd, 25th, and 29th.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Rondo?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Community Development 10, award a contract to North Coast Design Build LLC, Sheffield Lake, Ohio, in the amount of $2,741,455.80, which includes a contingency for the Haven Center Expansion Project, Lorain, Ohio. 3 bids received, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications. $1,050,000 will be paid from account CDBG CV grant funds, and remaining will be provided by the Neighborhood Alliance. Notice to proceed will be effective on or before September 18th, and complete project on or before December 31st, 2024. Authorize administrator to notify the auditor to release retainage at completion of the contract.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Yes, Drake, do you mind talking a little bit about this and maybe address some of Mr. Baker's concerns at the same time?
Well, thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to talk about a project that you've both supported and with the financing, the dollars that you agreed to finance toward this project, and then also to be able to make this happen. I do have 2 people with us today. Alicia Faust, the Executive Director of Neighborhood Alliance, who is the owner-operator of the project once it's completed. And then also Mr. Ron Coco from Clark and Post. He's an architect and the professional of record on this project. And I'll yield to them, and I'm certain they can talk about the particulars. I will say that Mr. Baker's question pertaining to Davis-Bacon, that is correct. This is a Davis-Bacon project. Ms. Karen Perkins will be the prevailing wage coordinator, and then I'm certain we will back her up as we have done in the past on some of the other projects.
Okay.
So if you'd like to come and maybe talk about it.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we're finally at the point of getting ready to break ground on this project. And it's been a long time coming, but we're very excited and pleased to have the bids come in the way that they did and be able to move the project forward with the groundbreaking of the expansion of the Haven Center. You may have heard that we had some flooding along with everybody else in our neighborhood over there. So the shelter is currently on a temporary closure. And so getting this project done is even more important than ever. We need to have places for the homeless in the community to be able to stay until we can help them get back on their feet. So we're working to rebuild what we lost in the flood. Of course, insurance is involved in all of that process. That will take us some time to get that under control, but we're really looking forward to getting this going and getting the project underway.
Did you advise our EMA of some of your flooding issues?
I think they're aware. If not, they will be soon.
Okay.
We'll take care of that.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussions?
Obviously, you've seen that we did get 3 bids on the time when we did the bid opening back on August 18th. The recommendation for award was to North Coast Design Build. They were the apparent low bid, and who was recommended by the architect of record for $2,538,385. Plus, that would also see a $203,070 contingency amount to go along with that for unforeseen.
Mr. President? While you're at the podium and you have the mic, for those that are watching or in the room, could you explain what the project is?
Okay. Let me yield to Mr. Coco, if you would, please. Again, he's the one that designed the project along with.
He can't be an architect, he doesn't have a tie on.
That's okay, Jay.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Ron Coco with Clark and Post Architects. This new addition to the Haven Center facility is specifically designed and engineered to accommodate couples and families and children that are in a homeless situation. Right now, the shelter only primarily caters to male adults, and the county is woefully inadequate in terms of caring for these individuals and providing them safe and respite location for their families. So the new addition will have rooms that will be segregated for families only and as for couples as well. So that's the basic need, and so that's what it's being addressed with this new addition.
Is there a time frame for completion? You guys have an idea? You can shout it out. Just shout it out. Look at.
Yeah, I believe North Coast said that they thought summer, June.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It says December 31, 24.
Yeah, but I like her optimism.
That's when we have to have the money expended.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
It'll be done by then.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Yeah. Well, good job, everybody. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Nope.
Alicia, I just wanted to thank you for all of your work. I know this has been quite a labor of love for you. And when I first started as a commissioner, we got together and you gave me a tour over there and told me what your needs were. So this is your plans coming to fruition, and thank you for your work on this.
Anything further? Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Commissioner Dell?
Aye.
Sanitary Engineer 11, Board of Commissioners retain legal counsel with the law firm of McMahon, Douglas LLP, Cleveland, for representation in the matter of MPDES permit compliance consideration under RC 6119 District in Lorain County.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Riddell?
Aye.
Mr. Hung?
Yes.
Children's Services 12, authorize and rescind various personnel to utilize the agency's MasterCard for the year 2023, not to exceed 2,500 in compliance with the ORC and their permissible policy.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Hung?
Yes.
Mr. Riddell?
Aye.
Under the engineer 13, authorize engineer to prepare, sign, and submit funding applications to Ohio Public Works Commission District 9 Integrating Committee for the following. 1, Chestnut Ridge Road Bridge 0531 replacement. Estimated project cost is $416,140. OPWC funding request is $307,944. Local funding will be made available from the MVGT accounting engineer projects. 2, West Ridge Road resurfacing, Russia Road to State Route 113. Estimated project cost is $1,450,000. OPWC funding request is $538,244. NOACA funding is $912,256. No local funding required. 3, Baumhart Road resurfacing, Cooper Foster Park to Lorain City South Corporation Limit. Estimated project cost is $594,885. OPWC funding request is $118,977. NOACA funding is $475,908. No local funding required. And 4, Lake Avenue resurfacing safety improvement. Estimated project cost is $1,716,208. OPWC funding request is $343,242. CEAO safety funding is $1,372,966, and no local funding required.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Riddell?
Aye.
Mr. Hung?
Yes.
Safety, DTF 14, enter in a sub-grant agreement with Ohio Department of Public Safety, Ohio Drug Law Enforcement Fund Grant 2023 ROETFR 564 in the amount of $90,399.90 for Lorain County Drug Task Force to be applied towards salaries, and this will be paid from the Criminal Justice Salaries account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Riddell?
Aye.
Mr. Hung?
Yes.
Public comment.
Miss Diane Uhas?
She already left.
Oh, okay. Aiden Fogel.
Aiden Fogel, Sheffield 8. So I just got a couple questions. Quick question, where is the money going to come from to notify the electors of Lorain County about issue 20, the 7 districts plan?
It comes from the county general fund budget.
So the taxpayers are going to pay to notify?
That's Ohio Revised Code.
Okay, and that was the plan. Do you know how much that's going to cost?
Haven't taken a bid yet.
So you have to take a bid on it?
Mhm.
Okay, do you know when you'll pass that as an appropriation or?
Casey's not here, I can't answer that.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty much it. How's the expansion at the dog kennel coming along? Is that still?
We just missed the architect.
So that's still?
He's the architect that just left, right? No, he isn't? Oh. Huh?
But that plan
Oh,
is
different
still,
one?
that plan is still in motion?
Yeah, it's still moving forward.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
Thanks, Aiden. Oh, okay. I guess stick around, Aiden. Karen's going to tell you more, so. Michael DiCarlo?
Michael DiCarlo, Vermillion. Good evening, Commissioners. Saying what I'm saying here for continual process improvement and more perfect representative government system. The piggybacks on the drug task force grant, right? Just the drug task force thing together. We're having an election here in November. Supposedly cannabis is going to be on the ballot. Just a word on the street is 60% of the people don't want people going to jail over it. Okay. And this is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things. We got to build a new jail. And if we wait, it's going to cost more. But if we do it now, are we going to build a jail that's too big? Because these people that are using it as a rehab are no longer going to go there because it's legal. It's no longer a sick bird. So it's one of those catch-22s that you're in. And the other part was, and I wrote it down and I forgot it. That's that bad part with chemo. You start losing your needles a little bit. Dadgummit. It's all right.
That's
Well, anyway,
okay.
hope that makes sense.
Yep.
And you guys have a good week.
Okay.
And I can't go fishing because you can't be out in the sun when you're on chemo.
Yeah, well, good luck and keep up the fight.
That's right, bud. That's right.
Okay. Brian Baker? Oh, okay. Till Friday?
He's on hiatus.
Okay.
Too far to walk?
You made
Ten steps in, you're good?
You made Teresa snort. You made Teresa snort, Dan. So that's pretty good. Okay, County Administrator, update, please.
I'd like to start with Dave
Oh,
Greenspan.
Rosa, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I
Oh,
saw
come on
you
up.
saying I did.
Oh, okay, come on up.
Thank you.
How come? Well, you know what? This is probably one of the largest speaks or people participating. So,
Well, thank you very much.
well, thank you for coming out tonight.
Rosa G., Sheffield Lake. Okay, I understand what FEMA's doing with the flooding. We've already talked, our service director in Sheffield Lake's already talked to FEMA. I'm very much aware of that. The last county commissioner meeting, when I can't be here, I watch them online. The last one, 25, 26 minutes into it, it was discussed about the county fair because of the flooding needing the $30,000. I don't begrudge the county fair the money, I don't. But until that point, I didn't hear anyone talk about the senior citizens of Lorain County and what they had to deal with the flooding. Our senior citizens are on a fixed income. There are also a lot of the homeowners that pay the tax. Their income, they never dreamed that expenses would be as high as they are nowadays. Most of those seniors have basements that have hot water tanks and furnaces in. A lot of seniors got enough water to ruin their furnace or ruin their hot water heater. Not just Sheffield Lake, all over the county. They have no one to turn to. Some of the cities can help. Sheffield Lake, we're on a real tight budget. We don't have industry like so many of the other cities do. Our sanitary goes to Lorain. Lorain sanitary failed. That was no fault of Sheffield Lakes. That definitely was no fault of any senior. No one even reached out and said, hey, we're sorry about this. Now, the veterans are lucky. They have the Veteran Service Office. All the veterans that have reached out and contacted me, I have sent them to the service office. If they can't help them there, they refer them to the Emergency Veteran Support. That's great. Thank God for those two agencies. But that's not helping my seniors that aren't veterans or aren't widows of veterans. I have a lady devastated. A hot water heater, you're talking easy $1,000. She just put in a hot water heater 3 months ago. No, she does not have flood insurance because she does not live in a flood zone. Isn't there anything you guys can do to even find cheaper ways to help these people? There's got to be something our Lorain County Commissioners can do for the people that voted you in office and the people that covers your pay. I don't mean any disrespect to any of you. But if one of you were in the circumstances of being in their income level and having to replace something that important, it is September. How are they going to come up with the money for a furnace? How are they going to even be able to do any of that? Isn't there any way you guys could figure out some little way to help them? A little sum of money is better than nothing towards it. Please reconsider. Please. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosa.
Thank you, Rosa.
Hey, County Administrator, you have a report?
Yes, I'd like to start with Dave Greenspan, Future RQ. Dave has been here all day with us. And
Okay.
Dave, please.
So, Commissioners, thank you in a continuing effort to keep you updated and the citizens of Lorain County on our strategic plan. It's with an honor that I get to introduce. We talked about Future IQ here for a while, about the contract you approved and the work that they're doing. This is, I'm not going to even try your last name because I did it poorly earlier. But Dave is the CEO of Future IQ. He came in from Minneapolis. He'll be here this week. We have close to 25 meetings with various county commissioner employees, directors, as well as various elected officials to go over the first phase of the strategic plan. So I don't want to take away anything that Dave wants to say, but he's going to talk a little bit about that, the process, and then the portal for the strategic plan is up and running. I will say we did meet with Community Foundation today, and we will have this available in Spanish. As soon as we get the translation services back from them, we submitted the information to them today. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Hello,
Hey,
Commissioners.
hello, and welcome to Lorain County.
Do we have anything
Thank
to
you.
put up on the screen?
Yeah, they already do, right down there, lower right hand.
Okay. David Buell with Future IQ. Thrilled to be here to kick off this strategic planning process. As Dave said, we had a whole day of meetings today. One of the things a couple of things I want to just let you know as commissioners is that everybody I've spoken to so far is very supportive of the idea of going through this strategic planning process. I think there's a real sentiment that it's a good time for the county to have a long-term look to the future and think about how to deal with a whole range of opportunities and challenges going forward. And I think we heard some of that in public comment period earlier about issues that are emerging, things that are going to change in the world. So I think this conversation about the future strategic positioning of the county and this community, I think, is just the right time. That's the sense we're getting so far. Really, the start of this process is that from really now until the end of the year is going to be community engagement. We want to get community input and get people's perspective and thoughts about the future direction of the county. The second half of the project, because we're going to be done by April the 1st, is really then working with the staff and the county to look at, okay, how do you make that sort of future happen? What we have here on the screen to show you is the project portal. It's not live yet, but this is going to be a public-facing website that's dedicated to the project. This will be where everybody can go and find out about surveys, look at results, find out where events are occurring, what we're hearing from people and so on. So it's very transparent, very open. We've got a little bit of customised logo here. We did a little bit of branding, this sort of icon here, and the whole idea is all these different parts of the county that go from sort of urban to rural, how they all come together into this notion of a shared plan for the future. People can sign up and follow the project, be part of it. This will get built out over many pages over the course of the project, but we have overview, objectives, the timeline for the project. There'll be reports posted here and so on. So very early days, not live yet, and as Dave said, this will be translated into Spanish, as will all the materials for the project. But I just want to let you know that I'm here all week. We've got a whole range of meetings, meeting with leadership around the community, and that was a fantastic session today actually with the Community Foundation. I think they're going to be a real partner to give us access to a group of the community that is often hard to reach, but people whose voice is important when we have a conversation about the future. So I look forward to being back here and giving you updates as we go.
Thank you, Dave. And just one final note, if you notice on the logo, and I look to County Administrator Armbruster, it was his idea to ensure that the lake was prominently positioned on the logo there, so that's why you see that light blue that represents Lake Erie. So just wanted to give him some credit for that and maybe embarrass him a little bit. But
Do they have a lake in North Ridgeville?
thank you.
But hopefully you're going to add the commissioner's logo on the top there too, right, Dave?
Storm.
We can add it, Commissioner.
They have a drainage ditch. Okay, Jeff, was that it, Jeff?
No, we have Karen, and then
I
I got one thing I want to
Oh, okay.
And the dog kennel, don't forget the dog
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. A couple of items on my list. First of all, I wanted to give you a little update with regards to our Job and Family Services building. If you recall, we had a substantial amount of stormwater that entered into the building, and yes, I have notified EMA. So, the mitigation process has been ongoing. I expect that to be completed by September 10th. And at the end of the mitigation, then we're going to turn into restoration, which is going to include installing drywall and carpet and any other items that were damaged during our flood. And also the construction project that we were in the middle of when our, 500-year-old storm hit us. That project is nearing completion. So Elyria Avenue should be open tomorrow. And then they'll be running that pipe along the south side of our building and connecting it to the new storm sewer that we've had installed. And so we expect that to be done by the end of this week. So everything's looking good. So hopefully mitigation will be done on the 10th. Our stormwater project will be done on the 8th. We'll start restoration on the 11th, and that should be a 60-day process. Also, I'll follow up on Mr. Aiden's comment on the dog kennel. So I did check in with our architect, and he has submitted the drawings to the Carlisle Township Zoning Board for review, and also the state of Ohio. Since we are in the townships there, we'll need the state to give us a building permit. And then also on our EMA edition, we are currently out to bid, and I believe my bids are due next week. And that concludes my report. Unless there's any questions.
Yep, I had a question, Karen.
Yes, ma'am.
Just so the public understands, we had a multi-phase water issue over at JFS. This wasn't just an overnight 500-year storm. This started in mid-July, correct? My only question is, are you speaking with leadership over there and the folks over there on the carpet versus the hard surface? I've heard a lot of, I don't know if the word is complaint, but feedback on the carpet, and then when the water does get in there, you have the machines and maintenance guys go and suck up the water. So are you going to be talking to them and getting their feedback on what they want?
I have spoken with the director. I have not spoken with her staff at all. I would leave that up to her. However, I will say that in a building of that size, with the number of people that are congregated in in an area, cubicle after cubicle after cubicle. You have to really be concerned about acoustics. And when you have a hard surface floor, hard surface walls, and a hard surface ceiling, the acoustics would just be unbearable for those folks to try to have a conversation on the telephone when there's somebody else in the room speaking. So we did take that into consideration. The engineer on our stormwater project has basically guaranteed Commissioner Riddell and myself that by the time this project is completed, we will not have a water problem. So, and that's the primary reason why we're doing this, is so that there will be no water entering the building, so we won't have to worry about that carpet getting wet.
And since you mentioned the cubicles, that the water is a concern because the electrical runs on the bottom of the cubicles.
Right. All those cubicles have been removed, and they're in storage pods. So we had to take the cubicles out in order to get the carpet up. So again, it's all been dried. In fact, I can tell you, it's pretty amazing, really, when you listen to what all they've had to do to dry the place up. 236 air movers, 20 large dehumidifiers, 20 air filtration devices, 2,000 CFM, large format drying, 5,000 CFM desiccant package, 150 kilowatt generator, 2, 200 kilowatt generator, 1. And that was in order to completely dry and mitigate the damages that occurred after our water problem. So I believe we're on a good path. I have communicated with Ms. Tamas at JFS. I know that, I think Administrator Armbruster has also told her to share information with staff. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I just want people to understand that this was not just one event. This was 2 events that started in mid-July. And I know you were working on it. You were giving us feedback on what was going on over there. And thanks for all your work.
Thank
on
you.
that.
And what we would like to have is that free flow of information rather than public records requests, that we're not hiding anything, that we would like to be reasonable in what we can or cannot share. And there are some times that you just can't. You have to go through a public records request. But when employees are asking their boss, that boss should be able to share with the information that is public anyway. They're going to get it. So that's what we'd ask Barb to do with her staff over there. That might be a little bit different than the way it has happened in the past, but yet we're trying to be a little bit more free with the information that we have. And that's with all the things that we've done over JFS prior to this incident in the process of getting ready to do what we're doing right now. To finish my report, I certainly appreciate the Commissioner's support and the supporting the legal counsel for the 6119 as we try to move forward on this project. There was over 60 individuals that from the FPA's facility planning areas that were there, including our legal staff. The entire Northeast Ohio EPA division was there to make a presentation all the way down from the chief to the financial guy to all the way down to the wastewater treatment person that works for the EPA, Ohio EPA. Actually made a presentation at the meeting. There was only 2 districts that unfortunately weren't able to come, and that was Grafton and Amherst. It's not that there's no interest there, it's just that they unfortunately could not send somebody to it, but every one of the facilities planning areas were there. The meeting lasted about 3 hours. It was very informative, and we look forward to moving forward. Both Mayor Corcoran and Mayor Bradley both spoke very highly of trying to move forward on the projects. And the 6119 actually is a wastewater treatment plant to reduce the number of wastewater treatment plants that actually are processing our waste in the Lorain County, and to bring some synergies of lowering our costs with the idea that the facilities planning area does not change in any way whatsoever. It's just where the waste goes to be processed to go out to Lake Erie, unfortunately, to that blue area that is out there. So that completes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Clerk, did you want something? Oh.
Yeah, on that issue, Commissioner, as well as for the public, I went over with Karen Perkins to the JFS to see the scope of things. Dan Gross was off due to the COVID, so I kind of supported him. Didn't go outside the chain of command. I was just providing 50 years of, I visited several job sites in my life, and the design and the scope of the project, at first it looked like they were building it backwards, but after talking to the superintendent, they had actually constructed a pond. If we'd have had a 1-inch rain, or a rain that had caused the previous flooding, that would have been contained while they worked on going over Elyria Avenue. But that wasn't possible because we had 8 inches, 7, 8 inches of rain. We had that 500-year storm. It would have been nice to have had that about 2 weeks from now instead of last week, because we would be done, the project would be complete, and we could see the benefits of that. But I will say that in talking about the thing that several of the issues that delayed that project, and yes, water's been at JFS for a while, has been that the neighboring properties that are tied into the JFS drainage system, some of that was known and some of it wasn't known. In the old days, everybody didn't go to planning commission and get permits and do things the way they were supposed to be. So there was a little buried treasure underground. And then as they proceeded to go across Elyria Avenue, it turned out that the utilities, which are underneath there, there's water lines and sewer lines and electric lines and all kinds of stuff. And some of that stuff is not where it was shown to be. So that caused them to have to completely re-engineer going under Elyria Avenue, not to disturb the utilities they were there. So had it not been for the re-engineering time, that would have been completed by the time this storm came. Or if the storm came 2 weeks later in September when they're supposed to come, not in August, I believe we'd have had a different outcome. But be that as it may, it's been an ongoing problem, and I have every confidence that the administration and the staff has taken care of it, and that the folks at JFS, when the permanent fix is done, it's going to be permanent.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Okay.
Clerk's report.
Commissioners proclaim the month of September as Emergency Appropriation Month, and that original went to EMA. And then commissioners also proclaimed September 14th through the 23rd as First Responders Week in the county, and that went to the Mars Board.
Okay.
Board correspondence?
Move to waive the reading of the board's correspondence.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
New business?
None. Oh, I guess we're adjourned.
You're like 3 out of 4 on the wait
Oh, be quiet, be quiet.
Would you all like to sign this tonight?
Yeah, I'll sign these tonight. No, I don't want that.
Huh?
I'll trade you give that to her. We'll get the proclamation signed. Here, Jeff, sign the proclamation. Let's get that out.
I'll sign tomorrow. Okay.
Try and take this tomorrow, Wednesday. I thought we had 2 of them. Is there 2 of them in there? We just got the proclamations.
Mars Board was done already.
Oh, we already did that?
We signed
Oh,
those.
okay. You want to sign these now or tomorrow?